Hey guys, this is Nate and this is the Nader Tater channel. Alright, I have 3 different fixed wireless devices here and we're going to speed test them. And since I'll all be in the exact same spot that all 3 of them get service at, it will be a fair comparison from that standpoint, but know that these devices will vary based off your own location. So, you know, I think probably the most consistent one will be this 5G Verizon. If you have ultra wideband service, that one's going to be consistently very quick. The T-Mobile one, I know from experience of others and myself, it is very variable about where you're at and what bands you get, because this can go everywhere from like a low quality 4G LTE band to a really good mid band 5G that can give you impressive speeds, but it can't touch this ultra wideband 5G Verizon from what I know. And then here, this is the little Verizon 4G LTE only device. So obviously it's not going to be the fastest, but it's got some pros and cons compared to this guy. So let me go ahead and fire this up. I'm gonna do them one at a time so that they're not interfering with each other. So I have just this 4G one booted up and it's all set up to go. So I'm gonna log in to my phone. So now I'm logged in. I'm gonna go speedtest.net. And while you see there for a second, it went up way over 100 megabits per second, but then it slows down. Let's look at the ping. The ping is 21 milliseconds with 8 milliseconds of jitter. Now, so not bad, and I'm assuming it's gonna have 0 loss here in a second. Okay, and then so upload, it looked like it went a little over 10 megabits per second, and then it's being throttled down. So that's the one catch with this 4G LTE from Verizon. It is unlimited data, but it is throttled unlimited data. So you can really never get over about 50 megabits per second download and 6 upload. That was consistent at my house, an hour away, and it's consistent here. We'll go ahead and do one more quick test. One thing to point out, it has 0% loss, and that's important. You want to make sure that you don't get any loss in there. All right, so you can see the same story here. It's gonna limit it. Sorry, all my security cams are going crazy because delivery guys there. All right, so again, really good ping, good jitter. Now we're gonna go and check on fast.com because I like this one with the loaded ping. That one's an important test to do to make sure that you have good latency even when you are sending and receiving data. Now for some reason it's showing a really slow speed there for the download. And a fast speed for upload. So I'll have to rerun this since I'm not sure what happened there, if it was finishing up the speedtest.net one or something. But we'll go ahead and restart this guy. Okay, for some reason, this Verizon 4G LTE one does not like fast.com. I did not notice that before at my house, so I'm not sure if something's going on. I might refresh the page completely here and see if maybe I've connected to a bad server or something. Nope. Okay, well, it's being consistently poor on here, but I'm not sure why that is. Let's go back to this test and test the video quality just to make sure that we can do 4K video on this 4G box. Okay, there we go. So it can do 4K. Okay, so now it's T-Mobile's turn, and you know, I forgot to mention on the Verizon 4G one, there is no indicator of what the signal quality is. So you can't even tell what band you're on, even the number of bars, which I was kind of blown away that there's no indicator at all that I could find that tells you exactly what your signal quality is. So you just have to guess. Now the T-Mobile one, I can log into it, to the interface, which I've done here, and I can see that it's a little hard on the phone, but I can see I'm on B66 for my 4G band and N71 for my 5G secondary. So that is their extended 5G. That is not their mid-band or their ultra capacity. I will go test ultra capacity next, so that's semi-fair, but in this exact location I can't get their ultra capacity. So for this one, I can see that, and I can see the number of bars. I rotated it to get the best bars I could in this location. I get 3 bars for both 4G and let me turn on my screen here. All right, so you can see here on my screen my primary and secondary. I get 3 bars of each. I'm in the mid 90s for the RSRP, and you know, my signal to noise is low single digits. So those are not great numbers, but they're reasonable. So let's go to speed test and see what it gets here. Okay, first off, see you ping's 29, so it's not bad. That's reasonable. The jitter's a little bit higher than the so both pings and jitter are a little bit higher than the Verizon 4G. My speed, ironically, is right at 50. I tested just before and it was 75. So it could be I might have slightly rotated it. That's the downside of this guy. It is very sensitive. That the 4G one seemed to be less sensitive, but it's also harder to tell since it's always capped. All right, I'll do one more test just to make sure I gave it a fair run here. All right, my pings got worse, jitter got better, but my speeds are up here now in the 70s, 80s. So I mean, you saw how little I changed that orientation, and how big of a difference it made in the speed. You know, it almost doubled the download speed, but you can see it actually hurt my my upload potentially. So that's the downside to this T-Mobile. I've seen it is very sensitive. People don't quite understand. Hey, I've tried it in my house, it doesn't work. I mean, you have to make these minor adjustments and hone that in. And even the cell metrics, we'll go back to them and see if they changed here at all. Let's go ahead and reload this page and see if they actually made a big difference. All right, so you know, actually the metrics look a little bit worse than they did before, but my speeds were faster. So you know, that's just an indicator that the cell metrics are something, but honestly the best way to test it is with a speed test to verify I'm still in the same bands there. So that's that one. All right, so now what I need to do with this T-Mobile is I need to go to fast.com, because this is really probably the biggest thing besides that sensitivity of tuning it, is the, I don't know what's going on. Maybe something's going on with fast.com. I guess it's going a little bit faster now. All right, but the key thing I wanted to show here is this loaded ping, and this is actually good for T-Mobile compared to my home. I consistently will see 1 second, so 1,000 milliseconds on this loaded ping. Sometimes it's better, but I've never actually seen it at my house as low as this 156. But even 156 is not good, right? I mean, it's 4 times or slower than the Verizon one. So if you're doing gaming or you need something that's really quick response time, the T-Mobile that's probably the Achilles heel, at least on the N71, their mid-band 5G. Yeah, so again, it's very consistent, and it here, at least for the pings, are loaded and unloaded, are very consistent, and but it's going to vary place to place with where you're at geographically. So while I'm here, I might as well go ahead and test my phone itself. So this is a Verizon phone, and it looks like I have 3 bars of 5G. So let's go ahead and test my phone and see what it gets here. And so this is obviously not ultra wideband on this S20 phone. I must not be supporting that, so I don't get any great speed. You know, it's 53, so this is very comparable. This is almost the exact same score that I got on the T-Mobile home internet for its 5G. And this is where, you know, I don't like the way that all the carriers are touting 5G, because none of them are typically talking about the same thing. They're talking about a mid-band, or even maybe a low band, a high band 5G, and they're not comparable. You know, AT&T's 5G is really 4G. T-Mobile's is this hybrid where it's piggybacking off the 4G, and they're starting to roll out some of the millimeter wave. But then Verizon really has the market as far as the millimeter wave, but it's very hard to find. Their service is very, very sparse. So like even in Ann Arbor itself, there are like a handful of streets that have their ultra wideband, and those are the only people that can sign up to get that service. So in some ways it's unrealistic from that standpoint, but if you are in that area, you know, that's the way to go. Bang for buck. I mean, it's cheaper than fiber, it's cheaper than anything else, and you get really great speeds. All right, so I moved locations for this T-Mobile one. Now I was in a ultra capacity spot on their map, but I was not getting ultra capacity. I didn't want to mess with it too much. I knew where the tower was at, so I just moved closer to it. I'm only about a half mile away from where I was before. But now if you, let me screen share. Okay, so if you look at my stats here, I'm logged into the gateway again. You can see my secondary is N41, which is their mid-band 5G that's much better than their lower band N71. I still have the same B66 base signal, and then if we go over here to see how many bars I have, I know it's kind of hard on my phone, sorry guys, that's not mobile friendly. All right, so you can see I have 2 bars of 4G and 3 bars of 5G. I have a good signal to noise on 5G, but bad on the 4G. So I'm going to rotate this a few times and just see. Let's see, I'm going to rotate it this way, if I can get this a little bit better. So that hurt my 5G. Well, it's going to be hard to say here because I'm probably going to be trading off my 4G and 5G. All right, well, this one looks decent. So I got 3 bars of each. I still have good signal to noise, but let's go ahead and test here on speed test and just see what we get. All right, so now we're in the couple hundreds, and that's the difference between T-Mobile's N71 low band and their N41 mid band. And so, you know, 200 to 300 is kind of what I've seen as typical for their N41 for downloads. Your upload's going to vary greatly based off your 4G. I don't have a great 4G base here, and upload on this, in this case, is always on their 4G band. So you can, at home, I can like tweak this guy, because I actually prefer upload over download, mainly for sending YouTube videos up to the internet. And so you can see, you know, I pointed out before loss. This one actually has a little bit of loss in there. It's not much, that's not bad, but every bit counts there. So let's go to fast.com and just see how it looks there. So it looks about the same. And typically I've seen fast.com has been fairly similar to speedtest.net. If anything, fast.com is slower. It seems to be harder. And this, you can see now we're starting to get a little bit better loaded pings. The unloaded is actually worse for whatever reason on this setup right now. But you know, that loaded ping, like at my house, like I'm saying, it's a problem. If I did gaming, it would suck. And even without gaming, things like web browsing, when I click, that response time, that matters for loaded ping. Because if you're downloading something or watching streaming TV and then you're trying to web surf or do something else where you're sending in receiving a request, that loaded ping matters. So, and let's switch to the 5G Verizon box. All right, guys, it took absolute forever for me to get this thing set up. I think it's because I had a service address down in Georgia. I was able to change the service address up here to Ann Arbor, Michigan. It was actually fairly quick and easy. I could do it online or through the My Verizon app. And once I did that, I still had lots of troubles. I contacted support from Verizon. They said they don't know why it's not communicating. I did several resets of the device, and I finally got it set up. Here it is on the kid's car seat and pointing out a window. All right, so here I am on the screen, and you can see I have 4 bars of 5G ultra wideband, and I can run a speed test here. It takes a little while, but this is running a speed test now, and I'm assuming this takes my phone out of the loop, so it's just going from the gateway to Verizon. So I'm gonna verify this on speedtest.net and fast.com, but this is probably gonna be the most optimistic, I would assume, because it's all internal to Verizon testing. But here you can see 1.6 gigabits per second down and 200 megabytes or megabits per second upload. So that's some impressive speed here with the 5G ultra wideband. Now, I did notice when I was messing with it, it is certainly sensitive when you move it, but I would switch, if I would have it in the wrong place, it would be an LTE signal, and it still worked. So I'm gonna bring this device back home and see if once you activate it, if it will actually work outside of a 5G ultra wideband area. That would be kind of neat if it did. So let me go to speedtest.net and see what we can get with a third-party test. All right, so we're running, and you know, I need to check because I might actually start to be running at the limits of the Wi-Fi capability, for example, of this phone, being around 1 gigabit per second, because otherwise the speeds are fairly close to what they were just reported at Verizon. Either way, this is impressive. I would take 1 gig per second for the was it $60 a month, $50 a month, I think this is, if you have a Verizon phone plan. The other impressive thing is the ping. You got 9 millisecond ping and very little jitter and 0 loss. So these are some really good numbers. Let's go back to fast.com and see what we can get there. All right, so this one is over a gig now. And here you can see loading up, that loaded ping is also very important, and that's only 39 milliseconds. So that's some really good latency there. Unloaded is a little bit higher than speedtest.net, but you can see very consistently here getting at least a gigabit per second, and then 1 to 200 megabits per second upload. So some really nice numbers. I'm pretty impressed. All right, so last thing I want to check when I get back home is, now that I've activated that box, will it work at home on 4G? That's another good question. All right, so now I'm back home, and I brought the Verizon 5G gateway over here. And I noticed when I set it up, or when I tried to set it up initially at my house, that it got an LTE signal, and it showed that, but it would not activate because it wanted the 5G ultra wideband to activate. And I got myself into a lot of trouble by having the service address down in Georgia. It would not let me activate up here in Michigan, even though I had 5G ultra wideband. The other units, this T-Mobile and the 4G Verizon one, you plug them in, they boot up in 2 minutes, and they work, right? You connect to the Wi-Fi, there's no real setup to them other than trying to get your best signal available. But with this 5G unit, you have to go through the My Verizon app and get the you got to follow their setup, and it connects to Bluetooth to that guy, and then it does a pairing, and it's using your phone's GPS as well as that device's LTE signal to verify where you're at, and it will not let me activate the device away from the service address. But I noticed that once I put this gateway down like on the floor in the car, because I was going to drive, that it switched to LTE base once I didn't have it pointed at one of the 5G ultra wideband. So I wanted to see what would happen when I brought it home, and would it work on the LTE. So I just connected to the Wi-Fi with it, and now let's go in here to the web interface, and I type in the password. Alright, so I typed in the password, and then you can see here, I zoomed in, it's got 2 bars of LTE, so it's not very good. Now I did play with it a little bit, and I think I get better if I go up to the 3rd floor. I'm not going to do that here, but I'm just going to do a speed test using the Verizon one, and then I'll go to speedtest.net and fast.com and see what it gives me. But what I did verify is right away the internet worked. So this device will work, 1, if you move it, and 2, if you move it to just a 4G area. So that was interesting, and for sure you can't activate it. So it's showing 14 megabits per second down and 11 up, which is obviously slow. But if I go here to speedtest.net and run a test, so you can see the ping is 25 milliseconds, the jitter is 9, and you know, on this one, for whatever reason, the device is actually reporting a slower speed than like speedtest.net is for it. So I'm not exactly sure what it's doing there or why it's saying that, but it was getting, I was doing some tests earlier, 40, 50 megabits per second down and about 10 up. Okay, so for fun, I'll just go to fast and see what it does on fast.com. So it must be something with Verizon and fast.com. It must not like their, whatever their connection is, you know, that loaded ping is bad. You know, that's a half a second for loaded ping, and it's slower speeds, at least for download. The upload's actually showing faster than speedtest.net. So anyways, the fact is it works, even though you're not on ultra wideband, which surprised me. If you look at this, you know, this one is not throttled like the 4G one. It is $10 a month more, but if you had the ability, I would sign up for the 5G ultra wideband at a verified service address, and then you could use this somewhere else, for example, and you wouldn't be throttled to their 4G LTE throttles of 50 and 6. So it just so happens that with where it's at, I didn't really set it up really well, but I guarantee you I could get faster than 50 down, and obviously I already have faster than 6 up. So that's like a little trick that maybe you guys can use if you actually want a 4G service, but you can get the better unlimited, uncapped plan that the 5G has. So that's interesting. That's another option out there now. At least kind of a backdoor market. It's not a official way that you can use it from Verizon. So there it is. You can walk from this Verizon 4G box, which we know is capped at 50 down, 6 up, to that box on similar type bands where it's on a 4G base band and then a low band 5G. You're going to get a similar speeds, 50 to 100 megabits per second maybe. If you're really rural out there, then you know, you might actually get lower than that. You might get 10, 15 megabits per second if you're miles from a tower relying on a 4G only signal. And then the next step up is getting the mid band on this T-Mobile, and that's going to bump your download speed up, but it's not going to help your upload any better. And it does seem to have a little bit, since the N41 is a more upgraded service, and typically those towers have better backhauls and stuff. They typically have better ping and latency, you know, on those lines. So that's another improvement. And then your top of your line for speed, at least, is going to be this Verizon ultra wideband. But again, very few people can get it. With these devices, you can move. Not necessarily with the terms of service, you're not supposed to, but they do work if you move them. All right, everyone, I hope you liked this video and this speed test comparison. Obviously, feel free to subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and comment below for any questions that you have or things that you really liked about it, or your own experience as far as if you've had any of these services, which one would you get? So stay tuned for more content. I will keep up with some of this home internet stuff, but I also have lots of other content, a lot of technology stuff, and then some outdoor stuff on my channel.